Bulimics, on the other hand, get this, I know it doesn't make sense, but also preoccupied with weight and image and things. People with bulimia will eat, and their rationalization is, I can eat, but if I puke, then I'll get rid of the calories. That's the purging. But then there are non-purging ways of pretty much doing the same thing. For example, folks with bulimia will exercise until they hurt. And, they could fast. Anorexic people are known for, fasting, abusing laxatives, and things like that. Bulimics, on the other hand, like I said, will eat and eat and eat, but then they'll purge, or they will non-purge. But their rationalization, at least what makes sense to them, is to get rid of calories and not gain too much weight. So those are your eating disorders. Impulse and addiction disorders. Okay, so people with impulse and control and addiction disorders, they are really unable to control or resist urges. You see people who are drug addicts on TV, they just can't shake it and they need to get that fix. Well, it's not just limited to substance abuse. They will go to extreme lengths to satisfy whatever that quote unquote craving is. So, with the extreme compulsion, there is a pattern of habits, even to the point of self-harm. When I say self-harm, I mean sabotaging your own life. A person, for example, with an impulse control, whether they know better or not, could take rent money and get that fix. Whether it's food, sex, shopping, gambling, it is an impulse issue. It's hard really to develop boundaries, or if you do, you just have one of those days where, this impulse hits you, and it may come in spells. So addiction disorders might be the pyromania. You hear people like to set stuff on fire. Kleptomania, folks that like to steal things, and a lot of things ending in mania. All right, personality disorders. Lord, it may seem a little related to mood, so I could see that. Personality disorders, I don't like the name. I think it's a misnomer, and I know it's very, very closely related. I get what the textbook is trying to say, but it implies that something is wrong with the person. And it's more or less about what you do, how you do things, and how you respond, and less about your characteristics. For example, people with personality disorders, have these extreme, inflexible personality traits that's, really, really distressing to them and the people that are around them. And it's very, very tough for folks with personality disorders to have stable relationships. So you have things like antisocial behavior. It may just be a little bit more than, I don't feel like going today. Yeah, there's a mild, moderate, and extreme to all of this, again, but I am talking about the extremes that the people on the outside looking in might agree something's wrong. For example, anting. You don't want to be around crowds at all. I mean, your breathing changes, you get to sweating, you start getting nervous, but to the point you're almost like a hermit sometimes. You pick and choose who you're going to be around, but crowds, noise, oh my God, that's a definite no-no. Obsessive compulsive disorder, we're all about this OCD this and OCD that. This is what the part of social media that I hate. Everybody wants to be a doctor. Some can say that OCD is also an anxiety disorder, but it's this really, really strong, I guess you can say, preoccupation with order, with structure, and it's almost impulsive to where any which way they move or they think, it has to be organized, it has to be a certain way, or in that person's mind, it's wrong, it's out of place, they can't make another step until they fix it or they address it. For some reason, sometimes there's a numerical order or some type of sequential pattern in that person's head. It just makes sense. If you watch USA, Monk, remember Monk? Monk had this thing, everything in that man's home had to be immaculate. Or, I've seen people, when they walk down the street, they have to make sure on the sidewalk they only step in maybe 2, 3, 4 type pattern according to the clock. Or you have a person that cannot eat unless they eat with a fork to their left and a spoon and a knife to their right only. Or they may go in the house and they have to open the door and close it once, open the door and close it twice, open it, so on and so forth. And It's just a pattern of things in their mind, and this is just how it works for them. So OCD is a difficult one, and it can be a nightmare for the person, even if logically speaking they really don't want to do that. It's just that impulse to make sure everything around you, besides cleanliness, is in order. You have things like paranoid personality disorder. But it's unwarranted. It's an unwarranted paranoia, distrust, suspiciousness. And people who suffer with PPD are very sensitive and they're very guarded. People who suffer with PPD are very sensitive. They're very guarded. You know, you have those folks, even if the situation doesn't warrant, again, they think somebody's out to get them or they're trying to hurt them. I'm going to tell sort of kind of on my age. And I don't know, I have this thing with old school music, even if it doesn't make sense. Just look up Napoleon 14. The man had a song, something about they're all coming to get me. They're all coming to get me. Real quick, somatoform disorders used to be called somatic disorders. I told you they just changed the stuff because they get bored. It's basically where you experience physical symptoms that even if a doctor cannot, pinpoint why or where, non-textbook, you experience physical symptoms due to the mental illnesses that you have. I don't know a person on the planet who could have insomnia and worry, but their chest doesn't hurt, who has insomnia, maybe stomach cramps, or who worries so excessively they start having migraines. I just can't think of any. Things like that. Your physical health is affected because of the mental illness that you're living with. Doctors hate the word fibromyalgia. When I say I'm in pain, my pain is real. Don't tell me I'm just having a bipolar moment. Tic disorders. I don't know if all the stuttering I do has to do with it, but you have phonic tic disorders, that vocal. Most everyone has heard of Tourette. And sometimes it may not be vocal, just these sounds impulsively that, or uncontrollably, may come out of a person that they really can't help, or you have that motor tic. You've seen some people, they just flinch for no reason at all, or hey, it could be PTSD, but specifically with Tourette syndrome, say if it's a physical characteristic and you have that muscle or that joint, I won't say impulse, but specifically with Tourette syndrome, when you have that muscle, or like if you notice, like just picture a knee buckling, you have these tics, you have these muscle or motor movements, and it's not something that you can control. You see people sitting at the table or something, or you might see someone walking down the street. This is not specific to location. And they may flinch a lot with or without sounds that come behind it. And I'm going to try to pronounce this one. I'll just go ahead and put it on the screen. Trichotillomania. In that never-ending saga of patterns, this is what doctors look for. And it's always maybe 4 to 5 symptoms on any symptoms list for them to try and diagnose you with something. But, okay, I got to see that. Trichotillomania. I think I did it. Okay, so trichotillomania. I told you they got a name for everything. Is that extreme hair pulling. You ever seen kids, they're so frustrated, or sometimes it's not, triggered by anything. Some of this stuff is not precipitated by anything. It can just happen. It can be, a function or a habit of how that person responds to things, or just completely automatic. But with the hair pulling, it's not just the usual, oh my God, I got new growth and I need a perm. Kids, for example, I always use them, they will pull and nag until they start pulling hair out, or they would just pull and yank out of nervousness or for some reason. But that's how you say that big fancy word. The last disorder that I really, really want to touch base on, and I left this one for last, is near and dear to my heart because I have it. Borderline personality disorder. That's another one. It's not to do with my personality. It's the things that I do. Borderline is pretty much an extreme, intense patterns of emotions that really affect your everyday life in a negative way. Interpersonal skills, social graces, you're limited and pretty naive in how you respond to the world when you hear things like, I hate you so much right now. And you just have these rage moments and you take everything personally. Combine all of the illnesses that I've gone over, there's a bit of each, I say that carefully, with people who live with BPT, and it's not fun. When I go down the alphabet, trust, I'll do a video all by itself just on that one. It's just a fear of abandonment. It's not being able to control some impulses. It's a combination of panic attack, depression, and anxiety. It's a monster, and I would not wish it on anyone. So that's my recap that's my short summary as best as I can about these illnesses. And like I said, I'll just take the summer and cover one by one. Leave some questions for me. I live with this crap. I'm nobody's nurse. And I'll put some information in the description box for you. And I'm glad to see a lot of my subbies are kids. Yeah, I know. No one listens to us. Oh, I'm not a kid. Maybe it depends who you ask. But, you know, I'm glad to see I'm starting to get subs who are children. Okay, I'm not here to give any medical advice or anything. Please sit down and talk to your mom or an adult or someone that you trust. And grown folks, stop being in denial. Denial is a bad thing. But hopefully this information, the list is by no means exhaustive. So hopefully this information will just help you understand there's no blanket label of crazy or schizo or psycho or just mental illness, and that is all. There's a whole lot going on under this umbrella, and they are in the nomenclature that they're in, the categories that they're in for a specific reason, and a whole lot under those categories. So I hope that cleared up some things, and by dividing stuff into categories, then you can see that, yeah, this is a little bit, you know, more broad spectrum than most people even realize. We are human beings. I have a couple of labels. I'm not a label. Okay, I have a diagnosis. I got a couple of them depending on who you ask. I'm not a diagnosis. I'm a person just like you. So you stick around, it's gonna make sense. But like I said, just before you click any one of my videos, say I've been duped. Oh my God, media has brainwashed me. These are real human people, and they're all not cray-cray. Not at all. Wellness wishes. I'm done talking. I need to go get some juice, and I'm gonna holler at y'all in the next video. Okay, that's all.